The first debate of the 2012 U.S. presidential race is now history. An instant polls and most pundits agree that Republican Mitt Romney won by seeming to be more in command of his arguments than the incumbent President Barack Obama. Some, however, have begun questioning Romney's truthfulness about his policy ideas. Also, Romney has mentioned China by name 3 times during the debate. We will address all these in this week's Across America Talk. Hello and welcome to Across America Talk. I'm joined as usual by China Daily columnist Chen Weihua and journalist Zhou Boris. Welcome both. Tens of millions of Americans watched the presidential debate last night, and in the 2 weeks or so before the debate, President Barack Obama had begun pulling ahead slightly from his Republican rival, even in crucial swing states like Ohio, Florida, Pennsylvania, where some likely voters have yet to settle on a candidate. Having watched the presidential debate last night, Weihua, how would you grade the 2 candidates?
I have no doubt that actually Romney won the debate. Actually, I have that feeling when they debated the first question. I think, I think part of the reason is people, me included, I think probably President Obama, too, had a low expectation, for Romney, but he did very well. And also, I think in the media, I wouldn't say, most I would say liberal, if not left, tend to portray Obama more in a favorable light and Romney and not so favorably. So I think this is a time people really, you have to, this is uncensored, unedited. It's not on MSNBC or Fox News, which, they seem to have different agenda. So you can make the judgment, and finally, I think people see Romney actually had different arguments than otherwise they would if they watch, what the Democrats said during the campaign. And I think Romney had actually very good points, very shining points he made. Obama didn't really had a good rebuttal to that kind of challenge. And also about, you give $90 billion of tax break to green energy, while, the subsidy to traditional oil industry is only like $1.8 billion a year. I think that's a big contrast, figures, people not really. Yeah, maybe, but I think Obama didn't really defend himself well, and he didn't defend him saying that what he did in the past 4 years has been actually good. I don't think he defended himself well.
Or can I ask, do you think Obama actually prepared himself well? Because we have learned that Romney has been preparing for the debate very intensely.
They all do that.
Right,
I'm sure it wasn't the flatness, as several pundits have put it, of President Obama's performance was probably not due to a lack of preparation. He does have a day job, after all, unlike his challenger. I would say that the president appeared to have prepared for a different kind of debate, one that was going to be fact-based, and frankly, one that had a more effective moderator. I was sort of aghast watching Jim Lehrer, who is a veteran journalist and has handled about a dozen of these presidential debates in the past, although he was in a kind of semi-retirement but was persuaded to come out of it to moderate this one. And I think I agree with a lot of commentators who have said he just did not handle he allowed Romney really to take over the debate, essentially. Romney was talking over Jim Lehrer and Obama, and it got a bit chaotic at times. So lack of preparation, I don't think, was the president's Achilles heel last night. What I do think happened is that in his professorial, former law school professor way, Obama came ready to argue on a kind of point-counterpoint based on his record and at least what Romney has said. I think he seemed to have a fresh set of facts just for last night's debate, and I think we're going to see some fallout. Like many things in Mitt Romney's gaffe-laden campaign, I think we're going to see that this moment of glory for him is short-lived.
Okay, actually, Romney mentioned China by name 3 times during the presidential debate, saying that in his 5-point plan for creating jobs, we have some quote here, crack down on China if and when they cheat. Later, he said that to deal with America's budget deficit, he would cut spending based on whether a program was so critical is worth borrowing money from China to pay for it, and if not, I'll get rid of it. So how should we understand this?
So yesterday, Romney mentioned China 3 times. I think, this is just a political show. I mean, in the 80s, you want to make American angry. You talk about Japan, right? And in the Cold War days, you want to make American angry. You talk about the Soviet Union. Now, the only country that you can play with is China, because China is rising, is changing fast. It's easy to do fear-mongering, among the Americans. But I think, it doesn't make sense. You should crack down on cheating on any other countries, And besides, what's wrong with borrowing money from China? Is it the British money, Japanese money smells better? I don't think the same money. It's actually in US dollars, so it's your own money. So it's probably the Chinese money is even cheaper. It helps America more. So what I really worried, if you're a serious politician, you care about the relationship about China and the United States, which a lot of people like Kissinger described the relationship of the 21st century. You should not use this important relationship to play a game, because you're just sowing seeds of misunderstanding among the American public, which had already enough trouble of understanding each other well. Ultimately, I think when either of the candidates won the election or re-election, they actually owe China an apology to use China as a sort of tool, as a target to win votes, and which I think they should not do.
Exactly. Though the first debate we watched last night mostly, centered on some domestic policy ideas such as tax education, healthcare, but foreign policy is expected to be highlighted in one of the 2 remaining presidential debates. What are we expecting?
As a Catholic, you would still hear a lot about threats from China. Both militarily and economically. Romney has advocated for more military spending, actually. Obama even, there is military cuts, but he has this sort of pivot to Asia policy. So I think that both would emphasize, say, China's threat in the South China Sea, and elsewhere, maybe naval build-up, military spending, rise. I think they tend to exaggerate the facts, and also on the economic arena, I think they are going to talk about how the trade deficits, maybe even the currency policy is going to be a threat to the United States. All this, I think, I would expect to come up in this foreign policy debate. But what actually I really hope, I think what is missing, in the U.S. politics, political campaign today is that they never really talk much about cooperation. They tend to talk about the confrontation. I think if you look at the U.S. policy on China, which is a bipartisan policy in the last 40 years, is to engage and work with China, which means seeking cooperation.
But if you were among the registered voters, who are you going to vote for?
I actually see, Romney actually is not going to materialize what his tough rhetoric on China is,
Yeah, as Obama teased, he said, okay, Romney, and if you are elected, you will have a lot to do on day one. First, you need to repeal healthcare and name China as a currency manipulator.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can afford to do that. American business, just the 2 countries wouldn't allow this big relationship to be destroyed.
A geopolitical crisis and potentially economic crisis would not be a great way for the new president to usher in his administration, that's for sure.
All right, thank you so much for coming to our show, and thanks for watching and being with us. The presidential election is just a month away. Our Across America Talk will continue to see how it goes.